Arguments are available, guys. Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to Unfair Sports, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. I am your host, Jay, with your favorite co-host, Jimmy. Thank you for watching us here on the YouTubes, as well as listening to us wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. You know what? While you are there, like, subscribe, rate us, and review us, and give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Man, just give us 5 anyway. Gifted. So, with that, on today's episode of Unfair Sports, we're going to dive into all of the Saturday shootouts and thrillers. Chiefs, you might have a problem. Cowboys are feeling dominant. We got one word around the NFL. And we'll wrap up with a little bit of fight night, with a little bit of Wilder versus, Fury. Hit us up on the Unfair fan line, 430-901-1906, and leave us a message. Let us know what you think of the show. We love your strongest opinions. You may end up on the show one of these days, but keep the support going. Hit us up on the Unfair fan line to give us that one-liner that you believe in at 430-901-1906.
Jam Master Kitten J, what's going on?
What it do, baby?
Man, here to have fun, man. Here to have fun. Lots to get into.
Oh, my God. What a weekend. I'm not even going to lie. I have not had this fun of a weekend watching sports in a while, especially once we get into the collegiate area. Mm-hmm. It's probably been the best, I'm going to say, since 2007 when it comes to weekend after weekend of something happening. This is really good, and I'll explain why 2007 was so critical.
Good, because I'm curious. I have no idea what you're talking
about. When I tell you, you will remember. You'll be like, oh, my God, that did happen. Wait, that did happen. Yeah, it was one of those years. But with that, let's jump into the big boy out there, NFL football.
NFL football, Jay, did not disappoint. And we start with everybody's favorite
America's team,
who we always expect to end up going off the rails. Starts out good, then it becomes a train wreck. It's what we're used to. It's what the fans are used to as well. But apparently that has not been happening, Jay, because you had the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas yesterday against their division rival, the New York Giants, and they took care of them handedly, 44-20 to go to 4-1. Dak, impressive as always in this game, 22 of 32, 302 yards, 3 touchdowns. Zeke is back to prime steak Zeke. prime steak, 21, 110, and 1 touchdown. And the Giants, the nightmares just kept piling on top of each other. You had injuries to Daniel Jones, who was getting to work before he got injured in this game. Yet Saquon Barkley go out with a bad low ankle sprain, as well as Kenny Golladay hurt his knee at some point and didn't come back after halftime. So either way, they would have lost the game. Dallas would have took care of them anyway. So anyhow, with that, Dallas moving to 4-1, looking like one of the best teams in the NFC. Jay, this run of success, even going back to the Bucs game where they were in that game, had opportunities to win it. Do you believe that this early season success in Dallas is sustainable throughout the season?
Jimmy, I said this about the Cowboys from the beginning of the season. I had one concern. Their defense, because I did not know their defense was atrocious last year. And even though I enjoyed what I saw on Hard Knocks, I did not know if this Dallas defense was going to be for real. Oh, my God, they're for real. They're for real. So through week 4 on DVOA, they're the second best team in the NFL, DVOA-wise, with a 10th-ranked defense. I would have never guessed the Cowboys had that good of a defense, period. Little Diggs.
He ain't Little Diggs no more.
And he did some things out there that made me jump. So I'm going to say this. Yes, I do think that it's fair to say that this is sustainable for them. This is who the Cowboys are. That interception that he got, someone I was reading, of course, online, and someone was going at him like, he was basically beat on that. The pass was bad and blah, blah, blah. And there was a reply underneath that made a point that I did not realize. The way Nick Saban does with corners, because remember, when Trayvon Diggs went to Alabama, he was a wide receiver. He moved him to corner, and Trayvon Diggs said he cried about it. He was upset that he got moved to corner. Called his brother. His brother said, just show out, you'll be fine. Now he's considered a top 5 corner in the league right now. What Nick Saban always does is that he likes his corners to give a little bit of space to the receiver so he can suck them up and go ahead and basically bait the quarterback into a play. That's what Diggs has been doing this season. He's baiting quarterbacks into throwing passes they shouldn't throw, sucking up, getting those interceptions, which now he leads the league in because he has 6 now in the first 5 games, which is ridiculous. I didn't think the Cowboys defense would get these turnovers because the offense was never a problem. We knew the offense was going to be what it was when Dak is healthy. This defense, oh yeah, they are a force, and I think I'd be concerned if I was anybody in the NFC. You think that they're for real? Think this is sustainable?
Well, Jay, I'll put it to you this way. I'm very disappointed in you right now.
Wait, what?
I'm incredibly disappointed in you, and this is the reason why. You picked Dallas to go to the NFC Championship.
I did.
I thought you were crazy.
Uh-huh.
I thought you were certifiably having a mental breakdown and that I was going to have to save you from the inevitability of the collapse like I do with a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans.
Mm-hmm.
So why you didn't bring that up, that you were literally on them before the season started, I have no idea. That you will not take this opportunity, and I know it's early in the season, but still, this is sustainable, but take this opportunity to receive your flowers and take your victory lap ahead of time because I totally missed it. Totally missed it. So you are correct. Yes, this is sustainable. When you look at their season up to this point, every single game, when you look at every performance, you look at every unit, you look at every game, they've been really good. I can't think of a game where anyone is targeted and said that unit was terrible or that half was terrible. They've played really good, consistent football. And if you had like some sort of, if there were like a word associated, if we did one word on the Cowboys, the words that would come up would be solid, consistent, stable, mature.
Stability, something they've never really had before. Yes.
Maturity and balanced. Balanced on both sides of the ball. So I think that is sustainable because what they're doing is working. They've got a formula. It's like the team is in just the right sort of psychological state of mind, the right culture.
Space, yes.
Yeah, everything is as it needs to be. And this is what they've been trying to get this team to for quite some time. I do credit Dan Quinn a lot with what is happening with the defense because we always knew that they had talent. They always drafted defense as well. It's just something was missing schematic-wise. So far, he seems to have fixed that. Now, obviously, it helps when you have a superstar like Trayvon Diggs and an emerging superstar like Micah Parsons on that side of the ball.
Jabril Cox is looking actually a lot better.
Yeah, and you haven't even gotten Tank Lawrence back. No. He's not going to disrupt anything because he has one job. Attack the quarterback, stop the run on the way there.
Hey, coach, do we have a plan of attack? Yes, I have a plan. Attack. No, so you made a good point, and this is the reason why I'm not asking for my flowers yet. I need to see this a little bit more to fruition. True. Josh Allen said this after their victory, and we'll talk about them in a minute. He said that this is only 5th week in the season. There's still more work to do. There's still more things to go. There's actually still more things that could go wrong for this team. But if this team can stay the way they are today, yes. Who was I on early and why I was on this team so early? Dan Quinn. I know everyone hated him in Atlanta. I did too, because I don't think he's a good head coach. I think he's a fantastic defensive coordinator, especially when he's only focused on one thing. That Atlanta defense, they had moments. They had a lot of shining moments, but it's Atlanta. That's who they are. That's what they do. But bringing him to Dallas and actually giving them a better identity on the defensive side, especially with Diggs, bringing a young, because this is only a second year in, bringing that young corner saying, hey, man, take a few risks here and there. I don't mind it. It's not going to be a bad thing for us. Do that. That, to me, jumps out big for what the Cowboys can do. So I'm excited about that.
I mean, so with that real quick, like since we're talking about the coaching and how, at least on the defensive side of the ball, that's influenced this rise that Dallas is on, how much of the credit do you think Mike McCarthy deserves for what's happening? Because this is a name I have not heard come up when it comes to discussing the early season success of the Cowboys. So how much is this does he deserve? I'm gonna give McCarthy like 5%. I'll give him 10%, and this is why he assembled the staff. But no, because I'm being honest. They already had a loaded offense. Their offensive line was already good when he got there. The issue they had last year is Dak got hurt, who is the centerpiece of all this. And I think Dak's a different breed of quarterback in this league. I think he's up there. I mean, Dominic Foxworth for ESPN on The Undefeated wrote an article about how Dak is better than Tom Brady statistically in the way he plays right now in his career. And the one thing I see about Dak is that he commands the offense. He controls the offense. Everyone likes Dak. He builds something that Tony Romo could not build with that team. People love Dak. They love playing for Dak. That's important. And McCarthy didn't walk in. The reason why I can give him 10% is not only he assembled the roster, he didn't go in there to disrupt it. He understands the hierarchy, the system, the setup, and he's cool with it. As the season goes on, he'll get more credit because if he doesn't disrupt this, if he keeps this going, Zeke, power offense, going back to he's doing the opposite of what Jerry Jones wants from this team.
And I appreciate someone that will walk in there and say, hey, man, I know you want us to play like the Chiefs. We're not playing like the Chiefs. We're the Dallas Cowboys. And I love it.
Okay. So with Dallas, we've talked about, one of the highest of the highs thus far this season. Now let's talk about one of the lowest of the lows this season, especially in terms of the disappointment meter. And that is the Kansas City Chiefs. Standalone game Sunday night at home against the Bills, who you played in the AFC Championship. And Kansas City went out there and completely looked un-Kansas City-like, losing 38-20 to fall to 2-3, while the Bills go to 4-1, 4 straight. It's almost like the Week 1 game against the Steelers didn't happen.
Just like the Cowboys.
So you had Mahomes, 33 of 54, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. You had Josh Allen, a very respectable 15 of 26, but 315, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. So since you watched this game all the way, did you watch this game all the way through despite the 1 hour weather delay?
I missed it after the weather delay, but I went back and rewatched it.
Yep.
I record most of the games, especially if they're on TV. I go back and rewatch, and so I rewatched the second half.
So from what you saw, did the Chiefs collapse or did the Bills collapse them?
Oh, the Bills collapsed them. It's fair to say that the Bills collapsed them 100%. The Chiefs did not do that on their own. The Bills did that to them. Okay, so let me preface this. So if you go back to the last segment, I was talking about the Cowboys. Right. Let me let you know one thing. And this is also the reason why I'm not jumping for my flowers now. They played the freaking Giants. So this was expected for them to do this to them. In this scenario for the Bills, as much as I want to give them all the credit and love in the world, they went against the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL. A lot of people don't know that. The Chiefs has the worst defense in the NFL right now. They're atrocious. They're really bad. Nothing they can't do anything right. Also, this is also something that is residual from the Super Bowl. Their offensive line is atrocious too. I went and looked through the grades and was talking to Boise Z about this. He's a Chiefs fan. I went through the grades for the line, and their line is not graded very well on Pro Football Focus. They're not playing. Their best blocker is the tight end, Noah Gray. He doesn't even play. It's bad. Creed Humphreys is probably their best across the line at center. Rookie. He's a good run blocker. Okay, pass blocker. It may be vice versa. I have to remind myself, but they're not very good. Yeah, he's a good run blocker. Meh, pass blocker, almost middle of the credit at 69 as his grade. The Chiefs' biggest issue is their line, and teams have figured out exactly how to beat them, just like Tampa Bay did in the Super Bowl. This is how you beat the Chiefs. You ready? Super simple. Drop 7, rush 4, and get to Patrick Mahomes. He can't do anything. Nobody's getting open. They're double teaming both their wide receivers, their key ones, and the front 4 is actually getting pressure on 5 guys. That's a problem. And you can't leave back a tight end to try to do an additional block, which, Noah Gray is their best blocker. You may run big tight end set. Then it makes it even easier for the defense to double team out there. It takes away. Mahomes, as good of a scrambler as he is, those defensive schemes look like they're going out there and forcing him to keep running. They want him to scramble the whole game. And if he's scrambling the whole game, nobody's getting open, and that's an issue. So what did you see out of this?
Well, so you highlight the defense, and I think you're right on the money with that. I saw kind of a funny tweet from a guy. They had a blue check mark, so they must be somebody to some degree. They said that the greatest show on turf, about 2 decades ago,
the Rams.
Yeah, averaged 7.0 yards a play. And he said the Kansas City Chiefs are giving up 7.1 yards a play. So that's essentially to say that when you play against this Chiefs defense, you are just as productive as the greatest show on turf was against any of the defenses that they play. So that's how bad they are. It's like they treat every offense against them looks like the greatest show on turf or better.
That's what's so bad about them. But I
think, because of all this, because of what's gone on so far in the Chiefs season, and maybe even going back to the Super Bowl and how they looked in that formula that people were able to see that was so, just brilliantly utilized by Todd Bowles and the Tampa Bay defense is this. I don't think that fear factor is there anymore. I don't think teams are afraid of the Chiefs anymore. We would jokingly call them the Kansas City Warriors a lot, a la Golden State, but I don't think that fear is there anymore because the Browns took them to the max, right? Ravens beat them. They helped them, but the Ravens beat them. Chargers beat them. Philly put 30 on them. No fear in Philly. And the Bills treat you like a JV team last night. Nobody's afraid of this team anymore. And that's a huge part of why they would be so successful because there was so much out there to fear. We fear Tyreek Hill. We fear Travis Kelce. We fear Patrick Mahomes scrambling. We fear Andy Reid's brilliance. I don't think that fear is there anymore because going into this game, and I could see this in the body language of the Bills, They knew they were going to win this game. They knew they were better. They had no fear whatsoever. So therefore, the game was won before they played it. That's part of what's missing from this team.
I have to disagree with you on the fear factor of, I think teams are still afraid of their offense. They just know that their defense is going to give up 60 points, no problem. I think that's the biggest difference, is that when teams go out there, and I think that's why they had that swagger. They're like, okay, sure, you have Patrick Mahomes, the great eraser, someone that typically can come back, but we ain't concerned. We got Josh Allen to do the same thing. We're going to put up numbers on your offense, your defense, regardless, because your defense is terrible. And because of that, when your offense gets put down in points, yes, Patrick Mahomes is going to try to be the great eraser and try to bring you all back. But if we drop 7 and your offensive line sucks too, you can't do the things that you're used to doing. So I don't think it's that they just all of a sudden said, oh, no, we're not terrified of them. Is that they recognize where the holes are. People have figured out all of Kansas City's issues. Offensive line, that whole damn defense. That's what it is. Like, who's it? Dan Schroeder. Damn, what's his last name? The safety. Dan Sorensen. There it is. Dan Sorensen. He's looking really bad, and everybody's pointing out how bad he is. Tyrann Mathieu can't do anything by himself. Their corners are bad. It's like everything is just falling apart in that defense, and people are exposing it. Great teams are exposing it. Josh Allen was dropping dimes. And, of course, everyone's pointing out, oh, man, Josh Allen's great, this, that, and the other. No, I'm going to give him his flowers on it. Josh Allen had a really good game. But what Josh Allen did was recognize how to expose them. He just kept dropping dimes over their heads, how bad their coverage is. And so, in a way, you are right. The teams aren't afraid of them. They just know that they can just beat the dog out of them.
Yeah, I mean, they know how to beat them. They still do respect them. I don't think they're going in there.
I think
they're not looking at them like they're the Jacksonville Jaguars or anything like that.
I think that's what I meant more so. Not that they're not afraid. Is they still respect them, but they understand how to beat them now.
Now, here's the problem. This is going to work against the Chiefs. These defenses that they've played, these have been good defenses because the Browns have a good defense. Ravens have a good defense. Chargers do. Philly does, surprisingly. That's part of how they beat Carolina yesterday. And obviously the Bills, statistically, I think they have the first or second best defense.
The number one defense. Number one DVOA defense going into this week, yes.
Now what's going to happen is, now that they've gotten through this, the Chiefs, they're going to start to play some defenses that aren't as good as these. And then Mahomes will do what he normally does. So will Hill, so will Kelsey. And then they'll feel like we're back. And then they're going to face another real defense who's going to use the exact same formula. And they're not going to be ready for it. Kansas City needs to believe that we're not good enough. We've got to figure this out. No matter who we steamroll over these next few games, we are not ready. We're not capable at this time because of our defense and our offensive line to compete for a championship this year. We have to fix this. So you don't want their fan base or them to get fooled about what's about to happen.
Right. And you made a great point about looking at who they played. The Browns have a great defensive front. Easy to go for on them. And they actually should have lost that game. The Browns just are the Browns. They do that from time to time. Ravens have a really good defensive front. Chargers have a surprisingly good defensive front. The Eagles actually have a good pass rush.
They seem to always have a good pass rush.
It seems like that's the only thing they've got. The corners is usually what everybody torches.
Yeah.
As long as you get enough time, you can throw it on them. And the Bills' defensive front is ridiculously good. They've got Washington come up. Their defensive front has not been what we expected. I think their problem is their secondary and their linebackers more than the front, because I think Chase Young is still ridiculously good. But Washington, they've got them next. So that may be a concern game. The Titans,
they're not. Their defense isn't going to scare anybody. So they're going to steamroll them.
The Giants.
Steamroll.
Packers.
They're
in Kansas City, so they're going to be their advantage. The Raiders may be a problem again because the Raiders were a problem for them in years past. I think the Raiders' defensive fronts, they've actually been getting a lot of pressure this year.
That's one of those divisional games, kind of like the Chargers. It seems like they play them tough here in the last few seasons. They play them tough every single game, no matter.
Their problem is their division is actually really good on the defensive front side. The Chargers are solid, the Raiders are solid, and the Broncos are actually solid.
Right, with a defensive coach.
As long as they can get past that, they should be. They're going to make the playoffs regardless. They'll be fine getting to the playoffs because they'll run through these next 3 games. 3 of the 4 they should win with Washington, the Titans, the Giants, and the Packers. But when they get in those divisionals and they play the Cowboys, early November, there might be a problem. So, all right, good stuff on that. Great football weekend, always exciting, and something we always do here every Monday on Unfair Sports. Going to hit you guys with the news.
And now Jimmy has the news.
Thank you, Wendy. All right, Jay. So discussions have gained momentum on All-Star Ben Simmons actually returning to the 76ers, likely as soon as this week, sources told ESPN. Philly management, Doc Rivers, have progressed in talks over the weekend with his agent, Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul, on a resolution for him to report to the team. He could speak with team officials sometime this week, something he hasn't done since late August when he reiterated his desire to be traded. So it looks like he may actually be coming to camp. I think they still will have plans to try to move him, but looks like he'll be there.
Yeah, and I think that it makes sense for him to come back. Go ahead and get your money. Just show up. They're going to probably have you DMPs for the rest of the season until they can get you traded. But get out there, show you're in shape, make it easier for them to trade you. The issue is that Philadelphia wants a king's ransom to trade him, and he's not worth all of that. So drop your price, get rid of the dude.
And I think that what Rich Paul told him is he said, look, they don't call me Rich Paul because I don't show up and collect checks. So come in, go through the drills like the coach takes you through. You don't have to really talk to anybody. They probably don't want to talk to you anyway.
Yep.
Again, James Harden went through this. It's going to be a little bumpy, but we're going to get you out of here. This makes it easier for us to do that.
Yep.
All right. So up next, staying in the state of Pennsylvania, bad news for the Steelers, unfortunately. Juju Smith-Schuster, one of their star wideouts, is expected to have surgery on his dislocated shoulder they had in the game yesterday against the Denver Broncos. He's expected to miss 4 months, which technically doesn't end his season, perhaps unless the Steelers get to the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl.
Hilarious.
He might return. But it looks like we have seen the end of Juju for the 2021-2022 season.
I mean, how effective has he really been this season? I mean, no shade to my man Jude, but he has 15. He has 15 catches for 129 yards. Chase Claiborne and Deontay Johnson are the big receivers, as well as Najee Harris. They use him as a decoy, and to be honest, bringing James Washington, I think he'd do the same thing this year.
So essentially, he's the team's fourth best receiver. And I don't understand that. Now, I know when AB was there, that's when he had his best 2 seasons because AB was probably the best wide receiver in football.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, to go from how productive he was with AB to no AB, but still good receivers opposite you into what he is now, I don't understand that precipitous of a drop.
It's easy because everybody's keying in on Juju, and when you're keying in on Juju, he's not as good, to be honest. I mean, I think he's a solid wide receiver. I think that he is someone that can have a long career in the NFL. But the thing is, he's more of a decoy than he is really the main guy to go after. He's not number one. Let's put it like that. He's not AB.
Right. And I think he actually just signed a 1-year deal with Pittsburgh, so he could actually be a free agent. So he'll be pretty sought after. Maybe he can go to an offense opposite another star receiver.
Baby.
All right, so lastly, it turns out, Jay, that Brooklyn Nets star Kyrie Irving will be able to practice, after all, at the team's facility in Brooklyn. He still will not be able to play home games because of the city's COVID-19 vaccine mandate, but he would be allowed to practice there at the facility, which is now being considered a private office building as opposed to an indoor gym, one of the many indoor facilities that fall under the city's vaccine mandate. So what do you make of this?
I think it's interesting that they found a way to circumvent everything to get him in there at least to practice. Kyrie, I need you to go ahead and just get this done. Just go get vaccinated and call it a day. It makes no sense for you to be fighting this.
I think what he's doing is he's waiting for the numbers to drop far enough to where the city will lift this mandate, and then he can still play and not have to be vaccinated unless the NBA steps in with some of their protocols and still essentially makes it to where he does have to or still needs to be vaccinated. So the fight wouldn't be over with then, but that's what I think he's doing. I think he's going to stick to this. I mean, because if he doesn't, all this would have been for nothing.
I mean,
and he's Kyrie.
Andrew Wiggins did it.
He folded. He did.
Yeah.
I say that lovingly. I mean, but yeah, he did. But I don't think Kyrie's going for that. I don't think he's going to fold.
When them checks stop clearing, just like Ben Simmons, you hear it. Is that it?
It's news.
And that was Jimmy with the news.
Thank you, Bob.
Oh, man, what a college football season. So I mentioned as it opened, thank you for joining us here on Unfair Sports on our YouTube channel. So make sure you like, subscribe, share, because sharing is caring. And check out, I'll be posting shorts on there a lot. So make sure you check out the quick stats that I like to give you all on the YouTube channel. So with that, college football weekend was fantastic. We had the Red River Showdown, as they like to call it now. I don't care what they say. It was a freaking shootout. We had the Oklahoma Sooners mounting the greatest comeback probably in that game's history, winning against the Texas Longhorns 55-48. Right. A lot of changes happened in that game. A lot of fun happened and a lot of collapsing. First and foremost, Texas decided to start the game off with a 75-yard touchdown first play of the game.
Yeah.
Pretty embarrassing for Oklahoma. Followed by an interception and then a Bijan Robinson touchdown to go along with it. Everything went bad. Actually, Oklahoma punt. Everything went bad for Oklahoma in that game to the point of our boy Spencer Rattler getting benched after 2 turnovers, and Texas went up 28-7 at the end of the first quarter.
Yep.
Then things turned differently. Oklahoma decided to bring in the new young buck, Caleb Williams, and he went out there and ran a 66-yard touchdown to start the game off and led them to the victory all the way through. So, Jimmy, what do you think about that game? Let's start there first.
Well, it was a kind of a bit of a disjointed experience for me. I watched the first probably quarter and a half. Then I had to attend the funeral.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And I did tape the game. By the time I come back, the game was over, had just been completed, but I had been getting updates here and there on my phone. So then I watched from the point that I stopped watching all the way through to the end. So it was kind of an odd experience for me. And usually I need to watch a game all the way through to truly have a great understanding of what happened. But outside of that, it was one of the most fantastic offensive displays I've ever seen. There's a reason why I think this has become the most entertaining rivalry in college football, because there's never a dull moment in this game. Some years you can watch the Iron Bowl with Alabama and Auburn. Usually Alabama wins that. And it's a pretty good game. Even Ohio State, Michigan is usually a pretty good game. And I don't know if there are other really good rivalries out there, but there's something about this rivalry, just where it is, when it's played. I love how early in the season it's played, that, again, this not only lived up to the hype, but it exceeded what we're used to seeing, even despite, what was that, a quadruple overtime game last year? Somehow this eclipsed it because of how
53-45 last year.
Yeah, just how insane this game was. But from an offensive standpoint, one of the most just fun, entertaining, fantastic displays of offense I have seen. And I know that part of that has to do with what the defense did or didn't do, or was or wasn't doing. But all that notwithstanding, just an incredible game.
It was incredible. And yeah, as you mentioned, with Auburn, the Iron Bowl and everything, Alabama typically wins. Oklahoma typically wins too. I think Texas has only won 4 times or 5 times in the last 20 games. It's been brutal.
Yeah, OU's taking the last 4, right?
Yes, they won the last 4. And I think the win-loss is way Oklahoma. It's kind of like Alabama's is. But no, this game was fantastic. It was great to watch Oklahoma go through all this adversity and come back. We knew it was going to be this type of game. I made the mistake of taking Texas against the spread.
What was it?
4. And Texas did exactly what I actually thought Texas was going to do to me. They took that L at the end of the freaking game. But now it's leading to a big controversy because we have Spencer Rattler out the game. We have Caleb Williams going in. So now going into next week, the question is, who should start going forward? I'm going to say this.
Okay.
I'm going a little against the grain, everybody.
Right.
I think it should be Spencer Rattler. This is my reason why. I loved everything that Caleb Williams did in that game. I think he was fantastic. I think there's a reason why he didn't start from the beginning of the season. I think that reason will populate if he starts this next game against a coach who is known for giving Oklahoma problems in Gary Patterson and his defense at TCU. I don't think this is the game that you bring him in as a starter. I think if you bring him in as a starter, you wait the next week and you do it against Kansas, a game that you're guaranteed to beat the dog snot out of those boys. Do it in a safer space. Let him cook in that game. But against a team like TCU, who's infamous for giving you problems, you don't do it. I think Rattler, you need to find a way to keep Rattler in just for this season. Because after this season, Rattler's either going to transfer or he's going to the draft. I think about 90% chance he's going to have to go transfer because he's going to have to make up for this bad season, head to the Pac-12, dominate at Arizona State, and boom, you'll be back in the conversation of at least a 3rd-round pick. But to me, you kind of got to keep the offense humming with Spencer Rattler, but play a lot of Caleb Williams with it because there's a reason why, and I'll explain in a minute. But what do you think they should go with?
So like in Vegas, we've been betting degenerates for quite some time.
I am a degenerate.
And depending upon the language of the Vegas expert you're talking to, they divide people into two groups who bet. And you'll know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
The sharps are basically the experts, usually the professionals, usually the ones who know what they're doing, and the squares, which is basically the public.
Everybody
They'll
else.
see a team's like, oh, Kansas City Chiefs, I'm going to bet them. They don't know the spread. They don't know the situation, none of that. When you say that they should keep Spencer Rattler in as a starting quarterback, you're thinking like a sharp. Because part of what that involves a lot of times, just as in betting, is you end up having to do things you don't necessarily like having to do. You end up having to do things that are very much against the grain, very much against the public and what they're thinking. I think you're right on the money that Spencer Rattler needs to remain the quarterback. And here are my reasons why. This, if I recall correctly, this exact same thing happened last season.
Year. They benched
right?
Spencer because of turnovers, and somebody else led them to victory. Yes.
Right. And I think that after that, he was much better. And I think that this is going to be the exact same thing. He is going to be a much better quarterback because of this, because he's getting another opportunity, having to, once again, as a young quarterback, learn from his mistakes. And he is going to be a much more responsible quarterback throughout the year because his turnovers, it's not arm talent, it's not throws, it's not how he runs the offense, it's those turnovers, it's decision making. So I think that this is going to help him to be a lot more careful, but feeling that pressure of Caleb Williams immediately behind him, breathing down his neck, a lot of times, if you're a baller, it brings out the best in you.
Yes.
So if he's not a baller, he will crack under this, and he shouldn't be the starter anymore. So I think football-wise, because he's been the one commanding this offense now for... was it 1 or 2 seasons?
This is the second season. He was behind Jalen Hurts 3 years ago.
His second season.
So, yeah.
And I think that just because Caleb Williams came in and he was brilliant in this game doesn't necessarily mean that he's ready to be the starter because they're in practice and in those meetings with him every single day. So they know.
Something that we don't know.
Exactly. They know who needs to be the starter of this team. So there's that. And at the same time, let's say Lincoln Riley, just man-to-man, person-to-person, wanting to do a solid for him because let's say Spencer Rattler does, in fact, indeed intend to come out.
Transfer. Yeah.
You're gonna not transfer. Let's say he decides he wants to go ahead and go to the NFL anyway, since this is a draft that's not going to be quarterback heavy.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to be taken a lot higher up than he probably should be. Mm-hmm. If Lincoln Riley benches him right now, he's going to cost him millions of dollars.
Yes, it's true.
Because the longer he stays on the bench, right, the more those millions of dollars are going to decrease because of where he's going to be slotted at in the draft. So he's really doing him a solid. He's giving him every opportunity in order to not only prevent that from happening, but to maintain his role as the quarterback of this team. So I think that between those two, he's going to give him every chance to be successful.
Yep.
And if it still looks like that, despite all that, Rattler is still making these same kind of mistakes, then he has no choice. Rattler will understand. And then in that type of situation, I think he will transfer, go to a different situation, and then do the best he can in whatever program that he chooses. But yeah, I agree with you. Spencer Rattler should still be the starter of this team.
And it's hard for me to even say that I think that Spencer should, not just because of Caleb Williams' performance, but I think the effect that Caleb Williams has on the team is a lot bigger of a deal that no one really talks about. Because that's the one problem that I was talking to our boy Bryce, and we had a conversation about this. And that was one rumor that was going around with the Dallas Cowboys back when they had Tony Romo, is that the player's only been to Romo's house maybe once, maybe twice. So he didn't have the type of relationship. But Dak brings them over on a regular basis. He has a foundational friendship and relationship with those players on that team to where they rally behind him. He has kind of the Tom Brady effect. Like the running joke about him is that when rookies come in, Tom Brady walks up to them and shakes their hand and says, "Hey, my name is Tom Brady." And of course, the rookies are like, "Dog, I grew up watching you. I know who you are."
Right.
But Tom's basically, and he's doing it purposefully. He's showing them that I'm one of you. I'm like you. Mm-hmm. I'm just a normal guy. I'm a football player on this team. I'm not above you. I'm Tom Brady. I want you to understand that I am eye to eye with you. Caleb, the way that the players were rallying around him and supposedly the way that they celebrate with him, they like him a lot more than they like Spencer Rattler. And more so because Spencer Rattler had a bad reputation anyway in the QB1 series on Netflix. Everyone's called him a jerk, said he was horrible. Jalen Hurts kind of calmed that down for him and taught him how to be a better leader. But he still rubs people the wrong way.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And it's not that he's just a bad person. He just rubbed people the wrong way. He's a little arrogant when he came in. This humbles him. This makes him think twice about the way he acts toward everyone. He needs to go out there now and really get them to rally around him. But this is the one problem I run into with this whole situation and why I almost said Caleb needs to start. The offense is completely different with him than it is with Spencer. And this is what I mean. Lincoln Riley just learned the type of quarterback he has to recruit moving forward. His offense is not set to have a pocket passer at all. His offense is set with timing routes. And that's how you kind of noticed it when Caleb Williams threw that pass to, who was that, Stogner, and he threw it behind him. It's a timing route. So you have to count, boom, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. And you launch it to that spot, but he couldn't. Caleb's not good at the timing routes. Spencer is. But Spencer has one problem that Caleb doesn't. Spencer's not a scrambler. Spencer is not a dual threat quarterback because every team knows he ain't running very fast. We've watched him try. It does not work. And because of that, Caleb gives them their offense. And this is where you saw the difference with the Texas defense. And the saving grace was that the key play of all of this was that 66-yard quarterback draw for a touchdown. The defense realized they had to keep a defender back to shadow him. They can't blitz like they want to. And because they can't blitz the way they wanted to, Caleb basically had time to throw passes to people open. Also, at the same time, he was just chunking this shit to random people. He basically looked, it was funny because Kenneth Murray had tweeted out, he was like, dude, this dude looked at the field and said, Mims is out there somewhere, and just launched it. And he really did in most of these passes. He's just throwing it. And because he has the confidence of getting into a spot where the receiver will come back and get it, that helps. That's a dynamic that they don't have with Spencer Rattler, unfortunately. So now Lincoln Riley knows when I recruit, can't go for guys like Rattler no more. I got to get a guy that can move and at least make the defense respect the potential of him scrambling.
So we believe that what Lincoln Riley should do is keep Spencer Rattler as his starting quarterback. But what do you think he will do?
He's going to probably keep Rattler at quarterback, but play a lot of Caleb Williams in the game. I think they're going to go with a 2-quarterback system, which is smart. You can throw Rattler out there, a receiver, and let him catch a couple passes here and there and go out of bounds. He can catch a ball on the flat and run out. There's nothing wrong with that. It makes sense to have the 2-quarterback system the way they're set up today because Caleb brings that dynamic to where the defense has to have a shadow on him at all times. Rattler doesn't. You blitz Rattler, that offensive line is not very good, and it's because they're young. If you compress that line around Caleb Williams, he's going to get out and he's going to move, and then the defense is stuck trying to defend all of these receivers on timing routes. Rattler, that's why he completes 70-something% of his passes. He knows how to hit timing routes. He just doesn't have time. Caleb creates time, and so now they're going to figure out how to balance that.
Well, I think one thing one thing that I thought of too with all this, just hearing you talk about these Caleb Williams packages and what he can do and how his skill set is different in certain areas than Spencer Rattler. Just makes it even more exciting. And that's why fans want him in there because they want to see him. They want to see more of those 66-yard runs and just the type of passes that he threw. But I think that Oklahoma, and to some degree Texas, but Oklahoma essentially assured themselves a place in the college football playoff. Now, you might be thinking, what are you talking about? The defense is terrible. They gave up 48 points. Well, the defense is not terrible. Don't worry about that. But look at what the college football playoff is looking at right now if things stand pat. Essentially, you're looking at Georgia, who suffocates people on defense. They're not fun to watch. You look at Iowa. They're not fun to watch. You look at who else? Is it Penn State? They beat Penn State, right?
No, Penn State lost to Iowa, so no.
So you need a team like Oklahoma in this college football playoff because I told you my theory. It's a television show. Forget the 4 best teams in college football. It's a television show.
Cincinnati. Who wants to watch Cincinnati?
Nobody wants to watch Cincinnati.
That's what I thought. Then you got Oklahoma, you got Alabama, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Oregon wrapping it up with Michigan State. Yes, you're right. They have solidified.
They've got to get them in this game.
Iowa's going to take an L this season. Oklahoma should go undefeated this year. Alabama should continue their undefeated streak. And Ohio State will probably, if they don't lose to Michigan or Penn State, will probably move up. So they'll probably end up being number 1 Oklahoma because Georgia's going to lose to probably Alabama in the SEC championship game.
Right.
Then you'll have so if they lose, you'll have Oklahoma. Cincinnati, I don't see them coming out undefeated. I think they're going to lose a game. So that gives you Oklahoma at 1 if they go undefeated. Number 2 is going to probably be Alabama because they're going to go undefeated for the rest of the way. Number 3, if Ohio State wins, it'll be them or Penn State or Michigan. And then number 4 is probably going to be Georgia. So honestly, that it's going to go right back to the way that we thought it was going to be if everything goes the way that we expected. Now, the question is, can Oklahoma beat Oklahoma State, which is going to be a toughie. So, it was great weekend to even, like I said, talking through this. I'm excited to see what they look like, and they've even solidified themselves for the next couple of years because Caleb's going to be a monster. He's a true freshman, so he's got 2 more years, and all they got to do is recruit a good dual threat to go right behind him. Oh, my God, Oklahoma's gonna be good. So
QBU continues.
QBU continues. Caleb will be the Heisman favorite next year. Just keep that in mind,
right?
Especially as a dual threat. So next game that was even more exciting over the weekend. I would love to talk about my Tennessee Volunteers who scored 28 points in the first quarter against South Carolina and beat the dog snot out of them. So I had a great weekend. All my teams won so far. So I'm happy. But no, we got to talk about the big one of the weekend, Alabama. I mentioned them earlier that they took an L to Texas A&M. And I can recall somebody saying that was the game that they were probably going to lose on our preview show. I literally said that if there was any game that they have on their schedule to be afraid of, it's going to be A&M because it's at College Station. And I don't think Alabama's as dominant as they normally are. And they proved that, guess what? They're not as dominant as they normally are. They went out to College Station and lost on a last-minute field goal, 41-38. It was a thriller. It was a good game. Like I said, I got to watch and see it all in pieces. It was a fantastic display of football. Bryce Young looked like he deserves to be in conversation. Brian Robinson looked good. But the biggest problem you run into in that game is that A&M was just ready. Problem with A&M is that this team we probably should have seen a long time ago. So, Jimmy, what did you think about – do you think that Alabama has put themselves out? Is it fair to say that Alabama is going to be out of the college football playoff because of this loss?
No, not because of this loss, but it will be because of the next one if there is a next one. No, they're one of those protected teams. They're one of the teams that makes the college football playoff television show what it is.
Yeah.
So I think there's a reason why Alabama getting beat by an unranked Texas A&M, right? At least as far as the poll that we have right now, only dropped to 5. Whereas most teams getting beat by an unranked team, you're probably looking at 8, 9, maybe even out of the top 10. And by right, you should be getting beat by an unranked team. So, no, they're a protected team. I think that in this game, they didn't play a bad game.
No.
You know, as a matter of fact, I couldn't figure out, because I watched bits and pieces of this, not the whole thing. I couldn't figure out how they lost because I looked at it football-wise. I said, all right, Bama was way better on third down. So they're moving the chains more. They had better rushing numbers, better passing numbers. I was like, how did they lose? Then I saw it. Alabama, turnovers, 2. Texas A&M, 1.
Yep.
That was the game right there.
There's your L.
Yep.
That's how you lose games. You lose games because of turnovers. And it's funny because Alabama, as you mentioned, unranked. Do you want to hear a crazy stat?
Yes.
Alabama was on a 100-game winning streak that was snapped by losing to A&M. They beat 100 straight unranked opponents, and they lost. Oklahoma also is the current holder of the longest active winning streak in college football at 14.
Yes.
Iowa's right behind them at 12, and Georgia's at 10, which is interesting. But Alabama, 100 straight games snapped. Snapped because they lost to A&M.
So then is that to say, all right, so looking at the polls or the pollsters, would you say that they looked at this and said, or a big part of the reason why Alabama didn't fall further than 5 was because Texas A&M, though unranked, probably should not have been unranked?
I think it's because it was a road game. Last second field goal is the only reason why Alabama didn't drop as far. And it's a pseudo rivalry game. Alabama's always had problems with A&M. That's probably the one. I mean, Johnny Manziel ate them alive. And in this game, they lost. The other thing is that because A&M lost 2 straight games to teams that they shouldn't. Well, Arkansas's ranked. They ranked 16th when they lost to them. And then Mississippi State, which that should not have been a loss. They lost to them at home. They should definitely have been unranked, but we know that A&M's better than advertised. Those 2 losses don't define them, but it shows you that they can be beaten. They played 5 straight home games.
Texas A&M
6.
6 straight home games?
And they had to have a neutral site game in here somewhere, but good God, this is crazy. Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Jay. Didn't Jimbo Fisher basically say he was going to kick Nick Saban's ass before this?
He really did.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
Which I thought was crazy, but, I mean, apparently Jimbo Fisher, who has a national title, knew what he was talking about. So when you think about that, that was important because you combine them taking care of the ball better, plus a coach who's a leader of the team who believes, who therefore can make his team believe. I think that was a big piece of this, too, is they went into this game actually believing they could win this game.
That's true. And my bad, Arkansas was actually at home when they beat them, when they beat A&M, but they were A&M was at home and they lost to Mississippi State. Right. It's like they don't have the listing of home or away, and it's like they should. But anyway, no, you're right. Jimbo Fisher said he was going to beat him. Out there and beat him.
He did it.
I can't be mad at the guy. He said he was going to do it. And to be honest, this I guess you could say for some it solidifies the reason why he got that extension at the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm.
They said that this year we're going to beat Alabama. So if you pay me more now, you will look good for doing it. In which I still think is stupid to pay this dude more money, and they have no national title to show for it because you got 2 losses. There's zero chance you're going to play for the national title this year. You're not making it to the playoff because there won't be a 2-loss team up there.
True.
I mean, at most, there'll be 1-loss teams. I think Oregon's going to have 1 loss. Hell, Michigan might have 1 loss. They may not, the way they're playing this year. Penn State got 1 loss. They may not lose no more. Iowa will probably lose 1. So, and that's probably going to be the Iowa State. We don't know. So, at this point, they're paying this guy to continuously stay mediocre at A&M, at a school that's got the pride and the money to spend and be like Texas, but can never be Texas. They're desperately wanting to be. But Alabama's not as dominant as they usually are, but they're still not bad. So
No, they're still solid.
They're still a very solid team. I mean, I'm still terrified of them for the rest of the season. Hell,
Yeah.
they play against my Vols coming up in 2 weeks, and I think we're going to probably lose by 30. Even though skills-wise, we have players that can keep up with them. Overall, Heupel has put together a solid offense that we can keep up with them on. But yeah, my Vols are going to probably get the dog snot kicked out of us. We're going to be like a 20-point. We're a 20-point dog, I think, in this game already, and you're not even close to the game yet. So
Right.
I don't know. But we'll see. Alabama next week has at Mississippi State, so they got back-to-back road games. We'll see if they can handle this. But honestly, I think they'll be fine. They'll bounce back. They'll win. It's Nick Saban.
Yeah.
We ain't concerned.
Yeah.
All right, so I got to go ahead and give y'all a recap for the Frozen 5. Then we're going to jump right into one word. All right, so my Frozen 5, I went 2-3 this week. Unfortunately, it was a losing week. I expected us to go on a winning week, but ended up being a losing week. And let me explain you why my 3 losses happened.
Okay.
Sometimes, Jimmy, you have to go against your traditional trends. Go against the norms that you expect, the things that you know will happen, and recognize that there will be anomaly weeks in the league where everything you think is going to happen will not happen. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I'm going to tell you my 3 losses first before I go into my 2 wins. First off, the Patriots. They were a -9 against the Texans. When it comes to Belichick, when you always bet with Belichick in what type of games? Going against a rookie quarterback. That did not work out very well for me. I guess it's because he also has a rookie quarterback. So I learned a very valuable lesson. Don't bet Belichick with a rookie quarterback versus a rookie quarterback to cover a spread. He's 22. He was 22-6 going into this game. He's now 22-7. Cleveland Browns was +1.5 in against the Chargers. They were up by 1 at almost the end of the game, and then they forced Eckler into the end zone for a touchdown. And in this scenario, the Chargers have been known to collapse at the end of games. They didn't collapse at the end of this game. So I learned a valuable lesson of not taking the Chargers in a collapsing situation because that 1.5 was really weird. I don't know why the Chargers are only 1.5 point favorites at home against the Browns. Vikings. Kirk Cousins has a very good winning record versus a team with a losing record. Kirk Cousins almost lost his game. And he did not look good in this game. In my personal opinion, he did not look good. He rallied them back to win, and they barely won. They should have covered the 9.5 because they played the freaking Lions. But they did the thing that everybody's been doing to the Lions, which is, Jimmy, beat them with a field goal that's miraculous. That probably should not have happened, especially since kickers were sucking all day yesterday, missing just about every extra point and field goal like 40 times, just like that Bengals and Packers game. Yeah, it was a ridiculous set of circumstances that should have worked out in my favor. But Jimmy, guess what? It did not work out in my favor. So I learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes you can't go with the trends. You should go ahead and go away from them if you feel like there's something fishy there. I felt like there was something fishy on all these games, and I learned they were all fishy. Now, the ones I did hit: Saints 2.5, Jameis Winston 300-yard game. I knew it was coming. I knew that eventually he's going to give us 300 yards, and I think this is going to be the trend moving forward for him. I think that he's getting even more comfortable in the offense. Sean Payton's giving him more freedom, at the same time adding more into the playbook. I think they're going to be good. Cardinals -5.5. They almost jizzed this one away for me.
True.
They almost did. I was terrified the entire game, but then the Cardinals closed. That's why they're 5-0.
That was a weird game. They are so much better than the 49ers. I do not understand how they only won by 7. They didn't look like they were interested in this game.
The 49ers have a really good defense. I think that's the reason why the 49ers defense, your defense is really good, dude. I think that's the game changer in that entire scenario is that your defense is good. So can't argue that part. So Frozen 5 went 2-3. Unfortunately, back-to-back losing weeks. Jimmy will redeem us this week and get us back on the winning track. Yes. And I promise you moving forward, I'm going 3-2. Bump this. I'm going to keep thinking properly and make sure that I don't follow the trends that's going to keep screwing me over. But Jimmy, we're going to jump right into my favorite thing that we've been doing. It's one word. So I'm going to give you a scenario in the NFL.
Okay.
You got to give me a one-word answer and a small synopsis to go behind it.
Okay.
You ready for it?
I'm ready.
Start off with the first one. Who owns the NFC? What team owns the NFC?
Cowboys.
Oh, really?
Balanced, no bad performances. You have the right leader. Your run game is there. Your defense is there and getting better each week. You have the right coaches in place. Everything is there for them. So it's Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
Yeah, I would take them against any team in the NFC right now.
Perfect. So I'm opposite. I think it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think my Bucs still own the NFC, irregardless of what anybody says, because of this crazy fun stat. Here it is. Fun stat I told you I'm going to tell you.
Yes.
Sunday marked the 6th time in 25 games with Tom Brady that the Bucs have scored 44 points or more. 6 times. The Bucs have scored 44 points just 6 times total in their 44 seasons in the NFL. Since Tom Brady arrived.
Yeah.
So 25, 44, 44, 6, 6, all those numbers are all connected. Tom Brady's a difference maker on that offense. Because he can ad-lib on his own, I think Tampa Bay's it.
Okay.
All right. Who owns the AFC? This one's the tough one.
Buffalo.
Oh.
Buffalo. They've had a really punishing defense these last 4 weeks. And I think that what he's doing, like last year, all that Allen was doing was feeding Stephon Diggs, just feeding him over and over and over again. And this year, he's spreading the ball around. And he found out that he had a Pro Bowl level tight end in Dawson Knox, who was just running with space all around him, Sorensen, all game yesterday. So it's the Buffalo Bills. I think they are, to me, I kind of think of them as the Dallas of the AFC in a way. I think that on offense, Dallas is somewhat just a little bit better, and maybe even on defense, but they're balanced, they're poised, they're moving ahead. They lost their first game like Dallas, haven't looked back since. So I would say it's Buffalo.
So I was thinking that it would be, I was debating between 2 teams. My one word?
Don't say Baltimore.
Chargers. I think this is the Chargers conference. Yep. They have gotten over the hump of the one thing that was their biggest problem is they collapse at the end of games. Justin Herbert has changed this offense. They are ridiculously good. Their defense is actually as good as I expected them to be last year. They're a little bit better this year. I am sold on the Chargers, even though DVOA-wise, they had the 11th ranked offense and 9th ranked defense. That 9th ranked defense, to me, is the difference maker. Their defense is a top 10 defense. They do cause problems. They gave up a lot to the Browns, but the Browns offensively is very talented. You cannot knock how talented they are. I think the AFC goes through the Chargers. Okay, next up, the Seattle Seahawks situation with Russell Wilson.
With Russell Wilson? Pathetic. Just everything about this team and their Thursday performance was just pathetic. And just the cherry on top of the patheticness was what happened to Russell Wilson. And it's only going to get worse because Geno Smith is not leading you to a winning record while Russell Wilson is out. I know people like Geno Smith, but he's not going to do that. It's just... And I say this as a 49ers fan. I should want the Seahawks to be bad, but I like the Seahawks. I like Russ.
I like their entire setup.
I don't really like Pete Carroll that much.
Yeah.
But this is surprisingly pathetic.
Yeah, I'm gonna say sad. I feel bad that we're losing Russell Wilson. First time he's ever missed a game in his career. Now he's got this finger injury that's out. They say in about 4 weeks, maybe 6, but he could potentially come back in 4 based upon the way the doctor, when he did the surgery, said it looks like. So I'm pretty excited that he can hopefully come back earlier, but this is probably it for this season. I don't think Seahawks make the playoffs because of it. They've got 4 games. I mean, their schedule is not the worst. So overall, they may be able to have Geno Smith do enough to keep them from losing it out, but I'm gonna say they got the Steelers, Saints, Jaguars, and Packers. They're gonna win one of those 4.
Jaguars. Nope.
Yep.
Actually, no. The Jaguars are probably going to beat them. It'll be something stupid like the Saints.
It'll be in Seattle too, and they're really bad at home, and I don't understand that, which is weird. All right. Next up, we have Trey Lance's first start.
Stupid. Not because of him, but because of the play calling around him. How many runs, Kyle Shanahan, can you call? Hey, Trey, just run right up the middle. Right, I know that Chandler Jones is there and J.J. Watt. No, I want you to run right at them, and I want you to go head first. You're going to be just fine. Some of the worst play calling I've ever seen. They made Trey Lance look like a pathetic quarterback, just in the type of passing plays that they call. And how many times did he run the ball, Jay? It had to be like 15 times.
Let me look at his actual
Why would
number.
you run any quarterback at least 15 times, not named Lamar Jackson? And that's when he chooses to run himself. These were called runs.
16 carries for 89 yards.
That's the best you can do. That's the best play calling you can do, Kyle Shanahan. You're supposed to be a genius. You're supposed to be an offensive guru. You're supposed to be able to decide to design an offense and passes that doesn't necessitate your quarterback running the ball 16 times, especially a rookie in his first start. So this was stupid.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I'm not even going too far in depth, but he looked. I mean, he reminded me a little bit of Kaepernick and Jeff Garcia mix. The way that he played, the throwing motion kind of made me think about Garcia. The fakes and then the runs like Kaepernick. He's not as fast as Kaepernick was. He's not as accurate as Garcia. That told me that I see why they drafted him so high. I also understood why they would not start him to start the season. He's not ready. And you can tell that Shanahan was afraid to let him throw the ball. You don't run the ball, Trey Lance, 16 times against the Arizona Cardinals defense with, like you said, J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, and the entire crew out there ready to put hurting on your guy.
It's because he still thinks they're a playoff team. They're not a playoff team. Go out there, let him throw the ball, let him make his mistakes, just like in Jacksonville. You're not a playoff team.
Yeah, not this year. Everyone told me that they were, and I tried to tell people that they weren't. So, one word on the Urban Meyer situation in Jacksonville.
Urban. That is so Urban. That is so indicative of the kind of decision making he makes off the field. You know, it kind of makes you wonder how a coach whose decision making can be this bad off the field, why it's not so much worse on the field. And it really isn't. I know he's early in his tenure at Jacksonville, but in college, there are very few moments where you would have said that's a bonehead coaching decision by Urban Meyer. He just didn't do it. So it's almost like he's a savant, like just, you know, brilliant on the football field, but outside of that really struggles with just common sense decision making. This was common sense decision making or lack thereof in this particular situation with Urban. So it's Urban. That's just so him. That's who he is.
So you know what Urban Meyer's strategy is going into next week, what he wants to do?
Attack?
He said, yeah, basically. He said that the team's offensive identity right now, he likes it, and he wants them to be 250 and 250 in every game, meaning he wants to run for 250 yards a game and pass for 250 yards a game. Bill Barnwell from ESPN gave us a great stat on that. So the Jaguars are 0-5, and Meyer's solution is to simply do something that NFL teams have done 33 times in 52 years. Right. That's your coach, Jacksonville. That is your coach. That's Urban Meyer, guys, in a nutshell. All right, wrapping it up. MVP favorite. Just give me a last name.
Diggs.
You think Trevon Diggs should get that bad boy?
I would say, honestly, Herbert.
Okay.
I would give it to Herbert slightly over K1 because I think he's starting to slow down just a little bit. Now, Herbert, he had a slow start to the season, but since then, he's just been full speed ahead, whereas K1, as spectacular as he was, I think that game yesterday against San Francisco kind of hurts him a little bit. And it was so weird what they were doing. All they were doing was just QB containing. Just their defensive ends were going wide. And usually he gets around that. But I guess, you know, we have Bosa, who's a super athlete, and whoever else is on the other side. It made it more difficult. And I realized that K1 is very uncomfortable in the pocket. He can throw from the pocket, but he's uncomfortable in the pocket.
Well, I think he knows his offensive line isn't the greatest. Mm-hmm. And he understands how to, when it collapses, to move around. But you know the other reason why I know in my mind that he is uncomfortable in that pocket?
What?
He's like 5'10". I mean, think about it. Once the line starts to collapse around him, you cannot see over the top of any of them. And he does a lot of good. He does timing routes. So he has to move around, make it open, and then hit somebody in stride. Because, I mean, he has a rocket arm, and he hits people pinpoint accurate. Mm-hmm. he can't do it just in the pocket with the way the line is designed. And like you said, Boza's coming around the outside like that. And you got to make sure that once you spread open, move to the side, get to a spot you want to and launch it. So, yeah, I think that he's not very comfortable with that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'll go Herbert. Who were you going to go? You still going K1?
I'm gonna stick to K1
Okay.
only because the man be rushing for them touchdowns too. That's the only thing that helps him. Because right behind him, to me, right before I think Herbert is third right now, is your boy J.A. I think Josh Allen probably should be in that conversation. Is it week 1? I was like, meh. Week 2?
Yeah.
Here we are.
All right, so Jay, to wrap it up, put a bow on it, let's go to the world of boxing. We don't really get to talk boxing very often.
It's been a while. It's been
a while. Probably the last time we talked boxing was the last time before this time that these two fighters fought, which is Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, who fought again the Bronze Bomber, the third fight of the trilogy to this day in Las Vegas. Veins in your neck and everything popping. Yeah, fought again in Las Vegas. Tyson Fury won by, I believe, KO in the 11th round over Deontay Wilder. Wildly entertaining fight. Very good fight. One of the best fights I've seen. Recap of the fight went as such. Feeling each other out the first 2 rounds. Tyson Fury puts Wilder on the canvas in the 3rd round. And in the 4th round, Wilder puts Fury on the canvas, I believe, twice. But from the 3rd round to the 11th, Deontay Wilder was wobbly. Off balance. He was not himself. He looked dazed at certain times. No one could figure out how he was still in this fight against the biggest, strongest fighter in boxing.
Dazed and confused.
But still one of the gutsiest performances I've ever seen. He displayed a lot of heart, a lot of will, and he knew how important this fight was for his legacy. Couldn't pull it out when Fury hit him with that shot in the 11th. He went down. He was on his side. It was over. They didn't even count. Ref didn't even count. It was over. But still, that's one of the best performances in a loss that I've ever seen from a fighter. So before this, he had my respect. He's got my utmost respect now. Wish him a speedy recovery if need be. And I want to see him back in the ring. Hopefully in less than, this took, 19 months for this fight to come around. So anyhow, after this, the question is, okay, what is the future of each fighter? With Tyson Fury, I think he's going to have like a warm-up fight early next year. But then you're looking at the winner between Anthony Joshua, the rematch between Joshua and Usyk in order to unify the titles. So that's where Fury's going. Deontay Wilder, no one really knows for sure. Maybe Anthony Ruiz, maybe he fights Usyk or Joshua, whoever loses that fight or something like that, whoever doesn't fight Fury. And that's sort of the direction of heavyweight boxing at this time. I mean, there's no Floyd Mayweather to carry your sport. So it's really down to those two biggest names in your sport.
Yeah.
So you have, we'll say, professional, traditional boxing on one side.
Yeah.
And then, as you know, on the other side, we have the Paul brothers, right?
Yeah.
Logan and Jake Paul. And what they're doing as far as the pay-per-view numbers, as far as the star power of the fighters that they choose to fight.
Theatricality and deception.
The niche entertainment value, but still doing really good pay-per-view numbers. So you see 2 directions that, in a sense, will determine the future of boxing. So when you look at both of those, think of it this way, Jay. I got 2 questions. First, you have an $80 pay-per-view voucher. Same night. So on the same night, you have Wilder and Fury fighting. And then let's say you have Jake Paul and Conor McGregor fighting. Which fight would you use that $80 voucher on?
Oh, God. Okay, what's my options?
You have Wilder Fury over here. Don't think any storylines. Just Wilder Fury are going to fight. And you have Logan Paul, Conor McGregor on this side.
So I'm more traditionalist in this boxing world.
Okay.
I'd probably go Wilder versus Fury because I have no interest in watching Logan Paul fight at all because every fight has been kind of, he hasn't really fought an actual boxer. He's been fighting people that can box, but not a traditional boxer in the sense. If he goes up as a traditional boxer, I'm totally down. I don't want to see him play Floyd Mayweather because Floyd Mayweather was going to be a defensive and he's going to just jab him to death. I want him going against somebody that will knock him out and see if one of the two can knock each other out. You know, there's no shade to Logan Paul himself, but I want to see if one of the two can do it. But I'd probably put more money on that Wilder Fury fight because when I went back and looked at all of it, I'm like, man, this is some quality. This is something we have not had in a long time. A true quality boxing match of 2 heavyweights hitting each other, pound, just pow, back and forth. And I was reading up, someone mentioned that basically Fury was just jabbing him to death, just hitting him in certain, just beating him until he just couldn't do it anymore. and because Wilder wasn't protecting himself like he should have.
I mean, that's a big part of it. And Drew pointed this out actually before the fight started, that a big part of what Fury did in the last fight, and he did it again in this fight, is he would lean on him a lot.
Exhaust his body, take them legs out.
Right, that 280 pounds just constantly leaning on you, because that's what happened. Each fighter gained 20 pounds for this fight. I mean, Wilder, it was obvious why he had to do it in order to face this bigger boxer. And I guess Fury did essentially the exact same thing, which made it basically a zero sum for Wilder, because your opponent gains 20 pounds as well. But yeah, I mean, just, you know, what's really good about these fighters is they're two sort of larger than life fighters. Because you see Deontay Wilder, just this 6'7", just cut up, looks kind of more like a basketball player, honestly, than a boxer. And then you see Tyson Fury. It is hard to describe his body type. Just big, burly, 6'9". Just looks like a monster. And to see just like two titans, to see them go at it for a total of 33 rounds, if you count all three fights, is, I mean, a huge part of what traditional boxing, or what traditionalists who love the sport like me would want to see. And it's something we haven't seen in a really long time. I mean, to think of it that way, it's almost like you have to go back to the Tyson days to really think about two names, two equal names, two larger than life figures going into the ring against each other.
Yeah,
now, I know you had the Klitschko years and all that, but I mean, it didn't really move the needle like these, and Fury actually beat Klitschko. But all right, so that's what you would personally do with your $80 voucher.
Yep.
But which side do you think has the upper hand in determining the future of boxing?
Oh, it's Logan Paul. He's a niche. He's a niche. He's a cartoon character to some people when it comes to it. He's not taken too seriously as a boxer, but he's a fantastic promoter and marketer. I mean, that's why he's a YouTube sensation. He's really good at promoting himself, getting himself out there. So everybody's quick to buy in on the Logan Paul side. He's going to bring in big names, offer up big money because he can get big purses, and it's going to be entertaining for a lot of people. Do I find it entertaining? Like I said, no, I do not find it entertaining whatsoever. Watching him fight people that aren't boxers. I want him to go against a real boxer. If I can find somebody, because is he a heavyweight?
I think technically yes.
I think technically he is. Technically, well, that's what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want. Right. That's the question. Is he technically a heavyweight? I have to look up and see.
So do you think that's eventually what he'll do? Like, because for him, you have to think of it one of two ways. You can think, all right, I'm going to keep doing these niche fights. I'm going to still collect these checks. I'm doing well for myself.
He's a cruiserweight.
Okay, I'm doing well for myself with what I'm doing right now. But do you think that eventually he'll want to see, can I really do this? Can I really hang in there with a real professional boxer and then go in that direction? So do you think eventually he will do that?
I think so.
And if he does do that and he takes a bad L, then do you think he'll keep doing that or go back to the market in a sense he's created for himself within boxing?
Ooh.
If he takes an L against a professional fighter, a bad L.
I think he will. I think that will be the motivation to keep him going, because I think that he's a lot more motivated with that, and I think that's going to make him pretty big. Because, I mean, both of the brothers are both cruiserweights. They're both around 6'1" and some change. They both got some size on them, so they probably almost 200 pounds of pop.
Yeah.
I think with both of them, I think that they could just make a bunch of money off of it. I think they can make a bunch of money off of it. But I'm not sold on. Like I said, I got to see him against some real boxers. Not even Floyd Mayweather. I need to see him against some real boxers that are in their age range, that are in shape and ready to continue their careers. I don't know who the boxer will be because I don't really know the boxers that well. But we'll see. I think if they can get to that point, even if they may take a loss, I believe they will continue to fight.
Okay.
So.
But overall, it was a great night for boxing. I don't know when the next time will be that we'll talk about boxing.
Oh God, I mean, I don't know. I as much as I enjoy boxing, I don't know the next time that we'll actually have to talk about it or whatnot. Wrong button here. Jimmy, what's on the editing room floor?
Editing room floor, Jay, your favorite coach, Chucky John Gruden. Apparently, the NFL has sent the Las Vegas Raiders additional John Gruden emails to review on top of the one that surfaced last week and others that were confirmed as well. One in particular that was very disparaging of Roger Goodell, in addition to the one that was very disparaging, insensitive, and to many people racist in regards to NFLPA President DeMaurice Smith.
Yep.
Executive. Yeah. So there are apparently more emails to review. If any of those emails are, again, blatantly racist, sexist, whatever it is, do you think that the Raiders will fire him at some point?
I don't think so. Their owner is Mark. Nah, I don't think they're gonna do it. So we'll see. But yeah. No, I don't see it. Do
Probably
you?
Not. If he faces a lot of outside pressure, I think yes, because there's probably clauses in his contract that talk about conduct, detrimental, etc. So I think that there's a possibility. As long as, if he's just cursing people out, calling them idiots, no. But if there's some stuff in there that's even worse than what he said about DeMar Smith, then I think they kind of have to.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah. All right, so next, so with the NBA preseason, we're on the eve of the start of the NBA regular season, 8 days as we record the show. The preseason hasn't been very kind to the Lakers as losses have piled up, given this Lakers roster has been revamped. And speaking about this, on Sunday, Anthony Davis admitted that the Lakers' disjointed beginning could go into the regular season, but that he believes that even though it's possible to struggle early in the season, that he thinks eventually the Lakers will be okay. So if you're a Lakers fan, are you worried about how they start the season and if they started bad?
Why? It's the Lakers. You got LeBron. LeBron healthy? That's all that matters.
Yeah.
I think you'll be just fine. You'll be fine over time. It takes time to gel with a whole bunch of new people, and LeBron is used to having a whole bunch of random people on his team, so you'll be all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think that is going to look a little worse than it normally does when these new teams like this with superstars are formed. And then I think the media is going to be all over them. Then they'll go on a win streak. They'll steady themselves. And so long as they can stay healthy, unlike last year, I think they'll be just fine. Getting out of the West, we'll talk about that when we do our preview show next week. But maybe, I don't know.
That's a good question.
All right. Lastly, so tonight as we record Monday Night Football, you have the Colts at the Ravens. Baltimore is a 7.5-point favorite. Do you have a final score?
Oh, God. Do I know? But you know what? I'll give you guys one. I think that the Ravens win 30-20.
Okay.
Covering the 7-point spread. Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson runs for 100 yards and passes for another 300.
Okay. Over under on 2.5 touchdowns, total touchdowns for Lamar. 2.5.
Over.
So you're going to go over?
Oh, yeah, I think over. I think he's going to eat that defensive live and really give. And he needs to make he's a statement game like he had last week with those 300 yards. He needs another 300-yard game. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what the Ravens are doing, especially with the running back situation they're dealing with. Mm-hmm. If they're getting him the passes out more. Yeah. Because I think Le'Veon Bell's not playing this game, so we should see Tyshawn Williams as well as Devontae Freeman and Latavius Williams if they don't trade one of them, because everybody's actually asking about the running backs now.
And your YouTube short on Lamar last week was really, really good with what you pointed out, that he actually is throwing for more yards than quarterbacks you might not expect.
Right.
So when we were talking about MVP candidates, that's why I thought you were going to say Lamar.
No.
He's in there. He's in the top 5.
He is. Not yet. But we'll see what the running and everything looks like after that.
And they're 3-1, going to be 4-1 at the end of the night. So they're up there with Buffalo for the best
their
record.
defense is actually still good.
Yeah, somehow without their best cornerback. Yeah, man.
Goodness gracious. That it?
Is it?
Oh, we appreciate y'all joining us as usual here on Unfair Sports. Thank you for checking us out on YouTube, as well as wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to, as well as with our partners at WMQGradio.com. While you're there, make sure you like, subscribe, rate, review, and give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Meh. Just give us 5 anyway. Gift it. So, for Mike, Bob, and Wendy, thank you so much for making the magic happen like you always do. For your favorite co-host, Jimmy, he'll have his Frozen 5 later this week.
Yeah, 1 topic, 5 picks, winning week. Let's do it.
Exactly. He's keeping it short and simple for you all. Me and the OSG will have the fantasy show. That bad boy will drop, and be prepared for your consumption to get your rosters together. So on YouTube, as well as a podcast version. So with that, we'll chop it up with y'all in a few days.
Peace.
Peace.